Well, hello. What a strange perspective to greet you at. In this video I want to talk about two things. One, I'm going to give you the lowdown on perspective, and two, I want to talk about whether that is the right setting for your camera for landscape photography, or any kind of photography I suppose, because there's all too many people out there that would like to tell you that it's you've got to switch it to that M. Not sure if that stands for manual or moron. We'll find out. So we were coming out for a walk, and there's a footpath that runs somewhere around the back of this field, and I'd not walked it before, so I thought, well, let's go and have a look at that. And we came across this field of rape. It's right on the corner of the main road, and you can see these tractor tracks going through it. Of course, yeah, it's a leading line, it draws the eye, which is why we want to have them in photos. And I had a look down it, and I kind of got down here to have a look, and I thought, there's not a lot there. And being tractor tracks, of course, there's two of them, so we came down and looked along that one. I thought, well, there's not a lot there either. And then Nikki said something, having me had it already dismissed it, and I took a second look. Always worth taking a second look, because what I saw, well, I saw it the first time, but I didn't realise the potential importance of it. But what I saw was, oh heck, I don't know whether you can see it from here. What I saw is down here, and I still don't know whether you can see it, but there's a small puddle in the track, and that's interesting. So I thought, well, if we get low, we can do something really interesting with this puddle, and that's kind of what I've done. See, I've taken the camera strap off because I'm very low to the ground here. It's really beginning to kill my knees already, and I just want to be able to get in here and get a very low angle, majoring on this puddle up front and just looking straight down this track. Really, there's lots of rape petals down here, and I think it's rather nice. Now I'm shooting a couple here because I don't know quite what the angle is. If you go back to my last video where I talk at some length as to why these screens and such lie, you'll realise perhaps why I'm doing multiple shots here, because I would rather get it right, or as near as right, in camera. So I'm just changing angles. I'm going really low. I'm trying to get some that have got the sky in, some that haven't. I'm working at a low aperture, so f5 here. I've done a few at f6.3 because primarily I want the focus to really kind of fall off going further back as we regress into the photo here. So all of the focus, not only whether it's in focus or whether it's soft, but also the visual attention I want early in the shot. So I'm doing a few here. I will, just really for sake of not totally muffing it up, do a few higher aperture ones as well. Boy, did I screw this up. This image was taken on a separate visit. I went back. So, hope you like the shot through the rape there. Do let me know in the comments below. So as we walk around the edge of this rape field, I'm holding this in the wrong hand really to demonstrate that it's a rape field, aren't I? There we are. A thought came into my head about how I was going to approach this idea of whether you shoot with the dial in M or P or S or A. And I think possibly on different cameras those monikers are different, but basically we're talking about shutter priority, aperture priority, full program or manual, perhaps moron. I mean, that's obviously quite unfair. Anyone that can shoot in manual mode might be considered to be a professional or a purist or I don't know what, because it's for the most part unnecessary. Of course, a lot of us learned photography on manual cameras. My first camera was a Zenith B. It didn't even have a light meter. Your camera has these additional modes, the A and the S and the P. Don't use the P. That is a mistake. But the A and the S modes, it's got them there for a reason. We use these modes to let the camera make some decisions over our apertures or our shutters. Those who aren't really thinking about this might turn around and say, well, why would you let the camera make those decisions? Why don't you want to make all those decisions yourself using the M setting on the dial, the manual setting? And to those people I would say, why are we bothered? Because one of those dials, and I appreciate some cameras only have one dial, but one of these dials in conjunction with another button or something is going to control your EV value. That's your exposure value. And on my camera we can change that in a third of a stop, so we can go from a third of a stop to a seventh of a stop to a whole stop, and increments up and down from there. Why the heck do we need to control the aperture and the shutter manually when we have fingertip control of these things through the EV in any case? It doesn't seem entirely sensible to do this. Yes, it might. Here's an argument that I would subscribe to. It may well slow you down to have full manual control because it makes you think more and more about things. I would agree that's a sensible argument to place on it. If you feel that you need slowing down that way, go ahead and use manual. So you can set your shutter speed and your aperture completely manually using the two dials on your camera, or perhaps a combination of a dial or button on lower end versions. Otherwise, I see in general use, in a day like today, I don't see a need for manual. There are obviously needs for manual, but it's not this. So as landscape photographers, we want to control generally, not all the time, but generally, the aperture, and we're not so worried about the shutter speed, because it's the depth of field that is often most important to us, rather than whether something is or something that's moving is pin sharp, particularly as it kind of regresses further down into the distance, although that of course depends on what you focus on. So if I haven't confused you already, when we want to control our shutter speed, we can obviously move things into shutter priority mode or shutter control mode, whatever you might want to call it. And we might want to do that if we have a low light situation and perhaps we have a breeze, or we've got all kinds of other things. But generally speaking, we just leave it in aperture and work from there. Now I say we, what I really mean is of course I, because I don't need to confuse myself further with additional controls over the shutter. I'd like to set the aperture and I'd like to just work from there and adjust the histogram, the brightness and everything else using the EV controls. But listen to me, I'm saying don't use program mode. Who am I to tell you not to use program mode? These modes are there for you to use your camera as you wish. If you don't understand how to use aperture priority or shutter priority, although they're not difficult, and you just want the camera to do its thing, use whatever modes it has. But you'll find you have so much more control when you take some of that control away from the camera. Perhaps that's a little obvious. Perhaps it would be better to say, don't let anyone tell you how you must use your camera. Having absolute control over your camera is great. It will help you tremendously to have a good working understanding of how the camera operates. But these modes are there for your benefit. They're there for a reason, and they will to help or make the camera easier to use in different environments and different settings, in different conditions. Although I would seriously question the one there that says art. I've never ever used that. But at the end of the day, if you get a great shot, what the heck does it matter what camera mode you're using? Because it doesn't. Well, this is a nice footpath. I've never walked along here before, or in actual fact I wasn't entirely certain it was here. I spied some inlets from the main road. I thought, oh, that'd be interesting, because it kind of seemed to follow the line of the old railway, which is indeed exactly what it's doing. This is the old cutting part of the coastal route that joined Cromer to Munsley, and I'm not sure where else it went. It must have gone to further. I can't remember. Anyway, there's a wonderful old video. Not old, it's new video, which I'll link to down in the description, by someone that's kind of recreated it using modern effects. It's stunning. I do recommend you watch it, and recommend his channel entirely. It's wonderful, where he recreates things of the past using some astonishing video techniques. Anyway, I'm digressing. Nikki was trying to show something to me. What are you trying to show? Huh?
This is all covered in bluebells.
It's covered, is it?
Yeah.
My eyesight isn't good enough to notice this bank cutting. Yeah, there are loads, aren't there? Further up here, this wooded bank here has got quite a lot of bluebells on it. Not enough to create kind of great swathes, although if I put my glasses on and darken my own vision down a little bit with my own kind of ND filters, I can detect them more. But it's very nice. If you want to look at some bluebell shots, go and check out this video. I'm never sure which way to point. I think it's there. Anyway, yeah, everything's backwards looking in this screen. It's very weird. If you haven't worked out by now, it's really easy to confuse me.
No, nothing.
It's nice, isn't it? Now, when I talk about perspective in terms of photography, I'm talking about taking a shot that's not you standing bolt upright with the camera to your eye, just looking straight ahead, basically eye line. Those shots are often improved upon, shall we say. And in a situation like this, where we're in a woodland. Oh, I've got some light. Hold on. That sun has just come out. Let's just do that. That's very nice. Sun has just hit in a couple of blooms here. But you see, I'm not standing up. I'm really right the way low down, because that's where my subject is. I could stand up and get a shot looking through, but that's not what I want to do. Because one, I know that's going to be awful. Sorry, I've had to move. My knees are killing me. Yeah, one, I know it's going to be awful, and two, it's just dull. You know, if you get down to the level of things, then yeah, it's so much more interesting. One person that was very, very good at this in the past, and I suspect still would be, he's still around, is Elliot Erwitt. Erwitt is. I don't know what he's up to these days, but he's a master of getting low down. His photographs of dogs in New York, he used to get down and have a dog's eye view of things, and his photographs are absolutely wonderful. I actually interviewed Elliot Erwitt once when he launched his book On the Beach, which I've got somewhere kicking around. But anyway, bit of anecdotal name dropping there. I do encourage you to get lower on things and kind of shoot through something. Not sure whether that's a PC sign to make. Shoot through something, get down to its level and basically look right the way through it. And one of the tricks of improving sometimes on that is to have a really low aperture as well, so that you have a very low depth of field that really kind of emphasizes the subject in your shot. So as Nikki's collecting bits of woodland behind me, and I'm sure she's already filled her pockets with some of this. If you're not sure what this is wild garlic, ransoms, and it's glorious at this time of year. It springs up with these beautiful little flowers, and it's really, really lovely. Tiny pocket of them here. I mean, there is hardly anything of them, but it's very, very nice. So I'm going to see whether I can shoot something quite close up. I'll get an 80th of a second, even at 200 ISO, although I'm going to push that up to 500 so I can really just make sure I don't get any movement on this. I'm going in really close, as you can see. I'm low to the ground. I'm isolating this as much as I possibly can because we're talking about f4 here, just to get some sharpness in the local ones. And what's really nice about these is there are some that aren't too close together, so the gap between this one and the one behind it is what, 6 inches or so, and it means that I can isolate more whilst really putting everything behind in bokeh. That's one way of screwing the camera up. Oh, it's all weird now as well. It's got its angles wrong. Is that square? One day I'm going to kill this camera. If you watched last week's video, you'll realise that it was lost on the beach, and someone very luckily found it and returned it to me following a Facebook posting from the local village. A holidaymaker found it. Thank you to Liam for that. It's just fallen off a tree, which you've just witnessed, and fell, I don't know, 4 foot, something like that. Still working. I'm not that I want to risk anything here. I've had this fall off the Coach and Horses rocks in Derbyshire, and fell into a crevice on the rocks. On that occasion I lost the ND filter off of it, which is a real shame. What else? Where else? I mean, it's been dropped a few times, and it seems to be a lot more resilient than the OSMO Pocket 1, which went over once and was irrevocably damaged as a result. Well, with all the drama of the camera falling off the tree, I've actually completely lost what I was going to say, and I can't review so easily on the OSMO Pocket because it doesn't have a speaker, and connecting it to the phone so I can hear what I was on about. Oh heck no. So enjoy the ransoms there, and I'll put some more shots of ransoms up because we found a few woodlands around here with just carpets of them. They're absolutely gorgeous, so have a look at those, and they're all shot, or most of the shot, from a relatively low perspective, looking straight through them. So when we're thinking about perspective, it helps to fully appreciate the way the word's used, I think, because perspective could mean looking up or down, but it also could just mean changing your view, and it's something that I've done here with this tree. Now you may be able to see from here that there's some bluebells around it. In fact, there's a nice carpet of bluebells underneath it. And what I've done with it is a technique that I have not tried before. So this might never see the light of day as a piece of video because it might turn out to be complete garbage. But the process that I've gone through is to shoot lots of images of that tree by walking around it and taking shots at different angles to it, all centered onto the tree. I haven't taken too many from quite on the other side of it, because you may be able to see there's a great big bush in the way, but I've got maybe, I don't know, 20 images, perhaps more, of it, and I'm going to blend those together as a multiple exposure, and going to see what happens with that. Perspective changes all kinds of things, and allow me to get a bit philosophical, if I may. In life, if we learn to look at things from more than just one perspective, one angle, one blighted, confused, biased point of view, then we often become guilty of never really seeing things any other way. It's conditioned sometimes. We can think things are wrong even though they're not, because it's what we've been thinking all our lives. If you don't change your mind, if you don't open up your mind to other possibilities, then you never get anywhere. And the same is true with this thing. So out before me, just the sea. It's a wonderful thing, but in this direction I have something a little bit more interesting. I've got some fields, a large lake, the coastline, quite an interesting sky. Not quite the same as that, it's a little bit more interesting. Sun goes down over here. In actual fact, another couple of hours the sun should just about set over the sea, which will be really rather nice. I don't expect to be here that long, but what I have right in front of me here, and what you were sat on for the last shot, and indeed what I was sat on for the last shot, is a bench. And we've got a bit of rolling hillside here, and it's an ideal place to demonstrate perspective. So I'm not going to pretend in any way, shape or form that this is going to be a great shot. It won't be. This is demonstration only. Because I've got such a large array of things ahead of me, and I'm on a bit of an incline, I can change my angle here and change an awful lot of what's in the shot. I'm going to put the camera into video. I'm going to step back a little bit just because of the perspective ratio of this is too kind of thin. And if I kind of hold here, I've got not a great shot, it's okay. If I come down here, we've lost the horizon entirely, and it makes for a far worse shot because there's just nothing there. And if I come way up here and continue to point down, I'm going to have to change the angle of the screen itself to do that. We end up with an image that shows those hills in the background as well, along with the coastline, although we probably just about lost the horizon as well. So somewhere in there might be a good shot, but we're changing the perspective, and therefore we're opening up the image or closing the image depending on where we are with the camera up and down. Never ever just think that your photograph is there, because it isn't. Can you hear the cuckoo? First cuckoo we've heard this year. As I say, never think that your photograph is just there, because almost certainly it isn't. It's maybe here, there, there, there. These small movements change the elements that are in the image. They provide more sense of depth in this instance because we're pushing the view further, or they close the image up. So if we're down here, all we're getting is the bench and a bit of bracken and such there. Just experiment, because if you don't, you'll never improve your photography. By having the camera high up and looking down a little, we've opened up the image. We see the details in this ploughed field, and of course the other fields in between as well. It gives the image some real depth. Fence line coming in off the left really helps draw the eye in as well. But I'm not sure whether I like this as a portrait or whether I actually crop it a little to make it more into a landscape. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. I hope you found it useful. Please click the like button, subscribe, tell your friends, all of that kind of stuff. We'll see you next time. And here's some other videos to watch.